here's a little inside look at what it's like to work at the Trump EPA. Now, Scott Pruitt, who has taken control of the agency, who now runs the EPA, he's done a lot of slashing of the budget, as well as changing what the EPA is actually supposed to do. See, they were the Environmental Protection Agency, but they really haven't been doing a whole lot about protecting the environment, especially considering a lot of the other things that the Trump administration has already done when it comes to environmental regulations. They've eliminated nearly all the Obama regulations that were passed during the last administration, withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, went after the Clean Power Plan, all that stuff. So environmental regulations under the Trump administration have not been doing very well. So obviously, we've had actually an increase in carbon emissions, which is wonderful. So anyway, this inside look at the EPA actually reveals an agency that is both underfunded, understaffed, and now, according to a report, has literal shit coming out of the water fountains. Again, this is falling apart incredibly fast. Now, last Thursday, employees at the EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C. discovered sewage literally spewing out of the water fountains, according to E&E News. So employees ended up getting an email about 9 in the morning, letting them know that there was, quote, a water line backup causing a slight issue with the fountains. That issue, of course, being that the water fountains were literally exploding with poop. Yes. Dan Becker, director of the Safe Climate Campaign, told E&E News, a sewer problem at the EPA HQ has resulted in poop exploding out of water fountains. Well, to be fair, at least it's not a poop-nado.
It's like a shark-nado, except with poop.
Yeah. As pointed out by Mr. Shapiro. Anyway. Now, the explosion, interestingly enough. Okay, so, look. Here we have the wealthiest country in the world, by the way. And we have raw sewage exploding out of government offices. That would be funny if it weren't so sad, right? Now, to make what was funny, but or what is sad, but funny into something even funnier, is the fact that the explosion had detonated outside of the EPA's Office of Policy in the hallway near Scott Pruitt's office. Well, at least that's something. So, according to E&E News, a few other water fountains also overflowed on the same floor, and the odor from the black sludge had wafted into nearby offices. So, look, I read the story, and the first thing that came to my head is that, hey, look, looks like those people at the EPA, most notably Scott Pruitt, if he was there in the office at that time, is kind of getting a taste of what it's like to live near an oil spill. Of course, it's now funnier because it's human shit. But then, look, it's not funny because right now the EPA is essentially being used to deregulate industry. It's protecting industry instead of the environment. So, I mean, look, Scott Pruitt, that's what he was put there to do. Okay, Scott Pruitt had successfully, or had tried to sue the EPA many, many times over any sort of regulation. For example, pipeline regulations, right? Well, I don't know if this is related. I mean, sewers, yes, those are pipelines. But as far as any kind of regulations of removing things like waste and of course water and things like that, the Trump administration has been trying to deregulate and basically allow industry to do whatever the hell it wants. And also, as far as infrastructure goes, which I think this would fall into the case of, they haven't really done anything about fixing our infrastructure. In fact, look, President Trump ran on fixing infrastructures. Oh, it's going to create a lot of jobs, right? And look, I do believe infrastructure does create lots of jobs when done correctly. Now, the Republican plan to do infrastructure was just to sell it off to private corporations. That is not a good plan. That's actually not going to create jobs. So when it comes to infrastructure spending, they haven't done any of this. I haven't seen anything about infrastructure in the Trump budget or anything. So it's not even on their radar. And while it's not on their radar, we have the EPA offices literally exploding with shit. So that's what we have. It's both ironic and incredibly fitting that the office, right, that Scott Pruitt got sent to destroy is literally falling apart because nobody paid attention to it. Because people aren't fixing it. We're not using our massive wealth to fix our own infrastructure. And look, to be fair, this had been like this before, right? Not exploding shit, but people were pretty wary about drinking out of the water fountains even before President Trump and Scott Pruitt. Now, again, if Trump was interested in infrastructure at all, they would have taken a look at it and go, you know what? Maybe we could actually allocate some of the funding to fix that. Because, look, what if it explodes one of these days? What if something bad happens? Well, something bad did happen. And again, they're not doing anything about it. So now the other ironic thing that you could probably take away from this, at least that's what I'm going to take away, is that this is a symbol of what's happening to the government under Republicans. It's literally falling apart. It's exploding with shit, which I think is the best comparison that anybody could ever draw with the Trump administration. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.